Chicken the chine of the Chinese chicken. You have a drumstick in your
I heard he ad-libbed came up with that on the spot.
What?
That was in the interview, one of the podcasts I listened to, Punch Up the Jam, they talked about it, how and he's like a really good sport too. He'll like answer fans' questions because everyone's like, is
really?
that a rap or something? And he's like, I came up with that on the spot.
Wow. Yeah. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Franchise Unpacked. My name is Zach.
And I'm Dave.
And today we are talking about a cartoon franchise that is actually super near and super dear to my heart, Adventure Time.
Come along
with me. That's the end. Yeah. And then you got like the Adventure Time. Come on, grab your friends. We'll go to we're going to copyright strike. We can't have.
Yeah, that's all we can sing for you.
And they're not owned by Disney, as far as I know. I think.
Come at us. Yeah. I bet they own them now.
Right.
After hearing this, Disney will now purchase Adventure Time just to sue us.
Walt's frozen head. They always pop it in. Like, make the purchase.
Make the purchase. Buy.
Well, and it's... So Adventure Time has been a super, super interesting ride of a show.
Yes, very.
And I can't think of any other way to phrase it other than a ride. I mean, it had a pilot made by Pendleton Ward, who also did Bravest Warriors, which was an online series. Did you ever see that?
I'd read that in my research for this episode, and I was going to ask if you knew anything about it.
Yeah, so Bravest Warriors is actually super funny. Like if you ever get the chance to just go and like check out a couple episodes, like I've only seen the first couple seasons of it.
It was an online series?
Yeah, it's all on YouTube. Yep, for free. But anyway, back in 2007, Pendleton Ward made this cartoon pilot, and it was, I forget his older brother's name, but Jeremy Shada, the guy who voices Finn, his older brother actually did the voice of Finn in the pilot.
Oh,
yeah.
Do they sound similar?
They sound almost identical. Yeah, they sound a lot alike. To my ear, anyway.
Sure.
And it was just this goofy, it was the Ice King had kidnapped some princesses, and then Finn and Jake come to kick his butt and save the princess. A very, almost like a Legend of Zelda-esque sort of thing. Like they're there to save the princess, and that's it.
None of the side wackiness that the show, I don't want to say wackiness, but like
it's kind of wacky.
The world it builds. Really, the whole universe. Yeah.
Well, and he made this in 2007, and it was kind of just a one-off, and I don't think it got picked up until 2010 was when season 1 aired. So it probably got picked up in 2009,
Sure.
and they animated it.
I read it takes months to make an episode because it was still hand-drawn at the time. And so it would take quite a long time to produce. They'd ever have group recordings, I understood, and then they would give all those recordings to the animators. So it's kind of I heard that's what happened with Aladdin. With Disney, animators hated Robin Williams because they had to wait to see what character he would do to animate that character. So they'd have to wait day of for him to go into the recording studio.
I miss Robin Williams.
I mean, he played in that. I think he was over 150 some odd characters.
What?
Different. I didn't
know he was more than just the genie.
Well, he plays. The genie turns into. He does impersonations and does his thing.
Yeah.
He Robin Williams.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, because I know that's like the standard process. For those of you who don't know, this makes me sound super bougie.
Get a little peek inside.
The time
Hollywood
I spent in Los Angeles.
Zach. Ooh, West Coast Zach.
When I did live in Burbank,
Burbank, home of Jay Leno's Tonight Show.
I thought you were going to say home of Jay Leno's chin.
Yeah, probably. Still, he probably has 8 garages.
Yeah, he's got it.
There's an airport there, I know.
Yep.
There's a studio. There is the Burbank. NBC has a big studio there.
There's a ton of animation stuff in Burbank. I mean, it's all over. And, I was taking a bunch of like voiceover classes there and stuff like that, which we can get into later. But I learned very quickly that that's kind of the standard process for animation is they'll go in, they'll record the actors, whatever, and then they do all the animation afterwards. But if they know the general timing, a lot of times they'll animate the characters like kind of like a rough animation.
Okay.
And then they'll drop in the voices and do the lip sync so that way they can kind of meet halfway with that process.
Because I have seen that where you've seen the voice actors in the studio and they're looking at, don't want to say black and white, but like you said, an
animatic,
lower, they're like, this is exactly what's going to happen in the scene,
right?
Especially for like an action. Think of like The Incredibles,
right?
For a movie like that or something where there's like, okay, it has to be specific, so you know what you're doing.
Well, but you'd be surprised though for how much they can, I guess, pull from a vocal take.
Sure.
Not to digress fully, but from Adventure Time already. But guys, we're 2 minutes in and we're
World of French, cartoon franchise.
Right, we are all over the map. But there was a cartoon that I did when I was out there called Power Gloves, I think it was. And it was just like a little online thing, whatever. But, you know, I would go into the studio and they would say, okay, well, and I voiced this like alien creature. It was kind of like, whoa, you know, like very goofy. And, but they would say, okay, like give us a sound like you just got thrown against a wall. Give us an ABC of that. And so it would have to be you know, like 3 different of those. And I go, okay, well, a giant monster hand just squished you. Give us 3 of those. And so they would get all these different little sound bites. And then when I watched the final one, you couldn't even tell like where they spliced them and diced them and they made their own sort of monster
hybrid
out of
ones.
it. Yeah.
Sure. That's awesome.
It was super cool to see.
Really cool.
But anyway, we digress as literally always.
Yeah, as per usual.
But so Adventure Time, it got picked up in 2010 was when the first season aired
on Cartoon Network.
Yep. And I never really saw anything like that because SpongeBob had been out and that was a little bit goofy and kind of
for adults. And I'm not saying like adult content, but it was very clever humor. I mean, there's an episode where they have Leif Erikson Day. Tell me a 8-year-old kid who knows who Leif Erikson is, and it's hilarious. But that's for the adults. You're like, right. It was filled with that.
And I think that Adventure Time was the first show, in my opinion anyway. Well, I shouldn't say the first. Ren and Stimpy I know did it a lot, but like Adventure Time seemed like it was truly made for kids, but equally truly made for adults. It wasn't necessarily like Ren and Stimpy where, let's be honest, that was just made for adults. That was an adult cartoon.
Yeah, it was graphic and disgusting.
And Adventure Time, if you didn't know what was happening as a kid, you'd be like, oh, this is, you know, just fun and lighthearted, whatever.
And it's the same way you watch it. You could watch one season of it and be every episode's
it's different.
So different.
Yeah. Well, and
there are through lines, but you know, character spines and stuff, but it could be in a whole different environment or you're like, how is this land? All of these, it feels like almost they're traveling different planets, like almost Star Wars-esque that you can just go in to see different people.
Well, like the first episode, you know, they get sent back in time and to Mars.
Yeah.
And they deal with the King of Mars, who is Abraham Lincoln. Like,
So you're like,
and he trades his soul to become a penny so that Jake or Finn or whoever can go back. I should remember the pilot better. I think that was the pilot, wasn't it? Or the first episode?
I believe
it was. It was early. Like to be that weird, it was early.
Yeah, that was a definite shot.
So that brings us to sort of the past of the franchise, which the past and the present of the franchise at this point are kind of one and the same. In case you weren't aware, sad news, Adventure Time is done. They had their series finale in September, I believe. And I actually just kind of went on a binge because I watched it like religiously, you know, all through, I think, season 7 or 8.
Okay.
And then I kind of dropped off a little bit. But I mean, the last couple seasons that I've been binging through, and especially the finale, they were incredible. I mean, especially for a cartoon to like really hit you in the feels like that.
There are, notable episodes of things. And there are cartoons out there, and we'll kind of hit on them soon. But like, for instance, I remember there's the Futurama episode where it's Fry trying to, you know, kind of going through time to fall in love with Leela. There's a lot of the heart-wrenching, you know, that gets you right in the feels.
Yeah, well, and that was one of the things that I think attracted me to the series in the first place, because the first 4 seasons, for those of you who haven't seen the show, the first 4 seasons are very, very Finn and Jake centered.
Sure.
Every episode is Finn's going on an adventure. Jake's going on an adventure. They're going on an adventure together. They're discovering new things. It honestly feels kind of like you're watching a video game. You know, and there are a lot of video game references too. Like when the
character BMO is a mobile video game device. Yeah,
exactly. And even when they defeat an enemy, like a big enemy, a boss enemy, they pick up loot.
Yeah,
you know, and
that sticks with them through the rest of the series.
Yeah, and it
becomes characters.
And there is that sort of object permanence. And someone was talking about, I wish I could remember who it was. I think it was an article that I was reading on Polygon about Adventure Time. And they pointed out that there's really no characters that just come and go.
No.
You know, they get totally woven into this fabric of Adventure Time. And that is their words and not mine. I thought they phrased it perfectly. But they really do get woven into that fabric, and they become a part of the show in ways that you wouldn't even imagine. You know, a character that shows up for 5 minutes
And speaks Japanese.
Yeah. And then like later, 6 seasons later, they show up again. And the fact that they speak Japanese and the fact that they do this is of the utmost importance. It was. And I mean, do you think that they had that sort of foresight, or did they write that in after?
Well, I think it's interesting that you brought up like the loot aspect. I think they were thinking of that. There was a lot of inspiration for this drawn from Dungeons and Dragons. The whole show, it's that kind of freewheeling adventure. It's like if you played at Dungeons and Dragons with a kid, this is the adventure they would give your characters, Jake and Finn. And you would run into like a French toast combination monster. Like ridiculous.
That's really interesting. I never thought about that.
Crazy stuff. Well, it's like a new adventure every day with wackier characters that then, hey, I like that guy. He's coming back.
Yeah.
Like
make him stick around.
And then, like you said, it was very Jake and Finn centric at the beginning. And we just met Lumpy Space Princess. She's now going to be a pretty regular character now from that moment on. So it's like we are experiencing this just as Jake and Finn are. Which brings up the timelessness of the show and
right. Well, that's so interesting that you bring that up about D&D because I've never played D&D myself.
Well, even the font of Adventure Time with the sword through it is you look at the monster manuals and stuff, and that's like it's such a nice throwback, especially very. I mean, I could see
Pendleton Ward being a pretty heavy D&D lover.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, and it's so cool to me too because the fact that they bring in those characters and they allow them to stay. I think that's what shaped the entire show. And they did something, especially toward the beginning, I guess beginning and middle, where they really started to shape this post-apocalyptic world where we weren't just on Earth, we were on this like decrepit post-war
post-civilization. There was something here. And some of these creatures could be mutants from that, or it was millennia ago, or who knows?
And there was something that I had read a long time ago, and I definitely don't remember where I read this, but they had suggested that the world had been desolate for so long that magic was reborn. And that's why we see people like the Ice King, Simon, who puts on this crown.
Use spells.
And uses spells and can fly and all this because of the crown. And, we see these crazy, like mythical almost creatures and the Lich inhabiting, snails.
Well, and a Lich, that is straight out of a monster manual. Yeah. These are creatures that are, that's a deep cut. You ask a kid, you're like, hey, what's the bad guy going to be? Oh, he's going to be a demon or a devil or a goblin. Right. A Lich, that's like nerdy. That's for the nerdy adults.
Well, and there are so many little references to those types of adult nerdiness things. When
BMO's an old Game Boy. You look at BMO and it's not even color. It's straight up like 8-bit, like basic,
Yeah, and
green screen sort of.
And I think it's really interesting too that they tie that into that past. Like that was BMO was not really pre-apocalypse.
Is it of our time?
Right, like how far does it go back?
Did we blow up and now this is our future?
And there was guys, there will be a couple of spoilers in here. I'm gonna say from this point forward, I can't promise no spoilers because
so far we haven't. I don't believe spoiled anything major.
I don't think
we just have character. Yeah, so from this point on, guys, there could be spoilers.
So just be careful.
Out there.
Just go watch.
We're saying this now because we're too lazy to record a sting later on that says there.
Exactly. Maybe we'll just throw this in the beginning.
No. Let's leave it.
We don't have time to edit. You guys,
this is perfect.
You know what? We're going to go full disclosure here for a second. We are recording this late in the week.
Yeah.
There was an ice storm.
Snowy, sleety ice storm.
Which just makes me wonder why we live in Michigan. I do
love it, though. I love experiencing all the seasons. I really do.
I do, too. But
they're getting a little ridiculous. Winter is getting weird here.
Yeah.
The last few years have been bizarre.
I like the snow, but I don't like it when it gets like -1 and the roads
people start crashing and driving. They already drive like morons here, but it gets worse.
Anyway, another digression. Classic digression.
And we're back.
But I think there is an episode where we meet BMO's creator, and I don't remember offhand when BMO was made. And that's why, first spoiler that I'm going to announce, that's why in the very, very last sequence of the finale, we see BMO sending that rocket up. I'm pretty sure that little hologram of that guy.
It was like Indian Steve Jobs.
Yeah, exactly.
He had like a black turtleneck. I think that's what they were going for. Yeah.
And the only other time that we've seen him was when he was like an older man. So I'm wondering.
Which means that's a human guy.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that the Land of Ooh is our our bleak future, or not so bleak.
Well, and there's one episode, and I caught it when it was like before I was trying to research anything. I caught this years ago when I was watching it, where Finn gets launched into outer space, and as he looks back at the Earth, there's a giant crater carved out of it, almost as if there was like a nuclear bomb that
it was so big.
It was so big that it like threw
or everything. An asteroid
or an asteroid. Like yeah. Well, the reason I think it's the reason I think it's a nuclear bomb is because they refer to like the mushroom war and things like that,
like Fallout.
So I mean, I love the lore of Adventure Time so much.
That would be okay. You know what? No, I'm going to save it. We're going to save it for the end of the episode because I have a future of the franchise sort of.
Yeah. Well, idea.
And especially now that it's ended, they could have some.
Well, and the other thing too is they did so much more than just the TV show. You know, they had the TV show. They had a few video games which were so-so.
Okay, I hear there's a virtual reality game that came out most recently for both PSVR.
Really, I actually haven't checked that one out.
Vive and stuff like that. But yeah, I had a couple of DS and 3DS games. Mm-hmm. Some of the titles are great. Adventure Time, Explore the Dungeon, because I don't know.
Yeah.
Adventure Time, hey, Ice King, why'd you steal our garbage?
That's the one that I played. Yep, why'd you steal our garbage?
There was rumor, this is kind of bringing in more the outside franchise, there was rumor that there was going to be a film in 2015.
Really?
And that was, like 4 years ago now. And then in 2018, Adam Muto, the senior series producer, he said, he's like, well, there was idea, but there's nothing on the table right now. There's I don't think there's a script.
And clearly nothing came of that.
I think you almost wonder, like, are they waiting to see what the future of cable is? These streaming, we're with like the Disney Fox merger. They said that the next 5 years, entertainment's going to change, especially with streaming services. The face of entertainment is going to change how we see it.
Yeah.
So we might not have a podcast. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
I hope virtually project ourselves right into your living room.
Right into your brain. Just take it. It'll be like a little serum that you take a teaspoon of. Yeah.
Laying on like a bearskin rug.
Hello.
Welcome
to the Franchise Unpacked podcast.
Come on in. Make yourself comfortable. It'll be good. Well, because they have that for VR. You can like sit in the cabin and watch. You want to watch your movie, but you can watch it in like So you can upload us into your virtual habitat.
Oh my God.
I don't know if super sexy.
I don't know if I'm comfortable being inside of someone's virtual habitat. That's.
I think we're gonna have to be. I think we're gonna have to be comfortable in the virtual world.
You know what? We'll get there. For you guys, we will get there. For you nerds,
just for you.
So I guess my whole point with the past of the franchise, which is sort of the present of the franchise, is that I love how they took a step that nobody really had before. They took this universe and they made it just this total exploration-based cartoon. And one of the things that they were talking about on their Comic-Con panel was Pendleton, when he was writing the initial like scripts and everything, there's a reason that Finn and Jake are buddies. He didn't want, he was tired of seeing these cartoon characters who were, just butting heads all the time. Like
they meet out of circumstance. Like, speaking of Futurama, Fry and Leela. That's like they would not be friends outside, but they are forced together and eventually do become. They fall. Sure. I mean, eventually. Sure.
But like even if you look at The Simpsons, for example, a very famous example, you look at Homer and Bart, and they are almost always at each other's throats.
It's that old school Three Stooges-esque level of comedy. I mean, even SpongeBob. You've got SpongeBob and Patrick, but then you've got your Squidward in there.
Yeah. Yep. There's
hosing everything up under the water.
Yeah. There's always this like point of contention, and Pendleton didn't want that. He wanted Finn and Jake to genuinely be best friends.
They're constantly through. Yeah. Like no matter what when the episode starts, you're like, okay, we know one thing's for certain.
Right.
Those two are friends.
Well, and they did something really interesting with Jake in that they made him strong and flexible and like he's able to morph into anything, but he's not invincible.
It's funny. It's like they wanted a Chewbacca meets Falcor meets. Yeah. I mean, even when he flies, when he stretches out, he looks like there's a lot of
that has to have been intentional.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Oh man, another tearjerker. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Never ending story.
well, and the thing that was interesting to me,
which is like very Adventure Time to me. Those like poppy funny names, which like Princess Bride. They also it's like these funny magical like a bog of sadness.
Right.
You're like that sounds awful and.
Oh man, now that like we're even just talking about this, like it's been a while since I've watched the entirety of the show all the way through. But man, I always want to go back. It's on Hulu now.
Okay,
yeah, at the time of recording this, it's on Hulu.
Check it out, people.
Yeah, definitely give it a watch.
Highly recommend it.
But
and it's light. You can put it on and not worry about it. Too. It's one of those shows, kind of like The Office. You can just have it on.
And you don't have to catch every single second.
Yeah.
But if you do catch every single second, one of their running Easter eggs is the snail. Have you noticed that? There is a snail in every single episode that shows up. Sometimes just for a few frames, like
just nails on in.
It's like he's sitting somewhere and he's waving.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. So it just cool stuff like that. That if you are paying attention, and there are so many little details. Like you see things that are like relics of our time before the Great Mushroom War.
Yeah.
And you see things that are relics of like Finn's ancestors or like who lived in the treehouse before him and Jake. There are all these little things that if you do pay that attention, you'll catch all of them.
And the great thing is too, there's a lot of, speaking kind of back to the voice actors, they have a lot of guest stars on.
Yeah.
You will recognize so many voices, including, Jake the dog was voiced by John DiMaggio, who is most famously Bender from Futurama, which is
excellent voice actor.
Unbelievable. Yeah, and he was Marcus Phoenix in Gears of War, that game series.
Yep.
The Scotsman in Samurai Jack. So he's been in, you will recognize him. And then over to the Ice King, Tom Kenny, SpongeBob SquarePants himself.
I've always wanted to meet Tom Kenny. He's on my number one, would love to voice act with.
Our friend Chrissy did.
Really?
Yeah, I believe, there's video and they sang, I don't know if they sang Fun. One of the songs from SpongeBob.
Really? That's so awesome.
Which all those songs are slapping bangers.
Yeah.
You can't name one song that's not good from the SpongeBob. But also Tom Kenny voiced Heifer from Rocko's Modern Life of another very adult cartoon. There's a whole episode where he trips. He takes cold medicine and hallucinates. Like everything's all warped. It's like a weird
I do not remember that episode.
Trip. Yeah, it's bizarre. That show, The Big Heads Next Door, it was very...
So the Big Heads, just to digress for a second, the Big Heads, that was my voice coach out in LA.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Charlie Adler. He voiced Ed and Mrs. Big Head.
That's so cool.
Yeah, he is an absolutely insane human being. He's like...
You'd have to be.
He is real life Popeye the Sailor Man with like a sailor's mouth. I mean, he is crazy, hilarious, excellent voice coach. Yeah. But
never has to work again.
Yeah, I mean, he's great.
That's wild.
And it's nuts too, because I actually got the privilege to meet and work with some of the voice actors from Adventure Time. Some of them were only on for a couple episodes, but even I should say work with all of them. But like Maria Bamford,
yes,
pretty famous comedian. You
may remember her from Borderlands 2.
Was she? Oh yeah, she was in Borderlands.
She's the little girl playing Dungeons and Dragons. The sequel is her game of Dungeons and Dragons. She narrates it.
That's so cool.
Her character in that. It's so funny.
You know, it was kind of like a matter of circumstance how I got to like meet her. But I ended up, I didn't even know if I told you this. I ended up actually being at her wedding and rehearsal dinner. And I got to like meet the creator of Cat Dog and talk to him for a while. And he was awesome too. But it's just crazy when I go back and I watch an episode and I'm not trying to like name drop or anything here.
That's okay.
I'm honestly
I'm
honestly just so geeked
the
about
fans like it. They like hearing her.
My whole thing is
when we rub shoulders with celebs.
For me, that wasn't just like it didn't feel like a celebrity experience. It felt like I was meeting and talking with someone who sort of like shaped this, I don't know, it wasn't even like a childhood thing, but it's like shaped this universe that I loved so much. You know, like Slime Princess, Hot Dog Princess, all these people
you're almost in awe. You're like, and you keep just hearing her talking. You're like,
I'm like, you're
to me.
And I mean, Maria is an absolutely lovely human being.
Oh, I hear she's a treat.
Yeah, super nice.
A documentary Patton Oswalt did, and I can't remember, Comedians of Comedy or something.
I think I've seen that.
Like that. She's, it's very great. The tall guy's on it too. I can't remember.
She was so funny. Like when she got married, she came out, her and her husband, in full hot dog costumes. Yes. Is how they came out to get married. How you
do it.
I'm like, that's perfect.
That's how you do it.
And that's exactly love. What you would expect from somebody who's voicing in Adventure Time, which I'll let you continue on your
No, that was pretty, we kind of headed up
with one last thing. We've been playing the trilogy, the remaster trilogy. Tom Kenny also voiced Spyro, which I did not realize. And you hear it and you're like, oh yeah. But you hear that, and that had to be so early on in his career back in the day that he was... It's almost like he's put himself into a lot of his voices now. You can hear him in Ice King and in SpongeBob. You hear him, but it's great. You want to. But back then, you're like, I didn't even recognize. he must have really been.
And the
like,
thing is,
I'm going for the
with Tom Kenny. He's so versatile. Like you would be shocked if you saw how many characters he is on Adventure Time.
Phil Lamar, we were talking about earlier, who you've
another person I had a super fortunate experience to do a voice class with.
He is the god of voice actors. He's been in everything.
I was late for his class. I came from doing the little web cartoon that I was telling you about. I came from doing the few episodes where I had a bunch of me getting the crap beaten out of me.
So you had a lot of recording.
for 3 hours, I was like,
You must have been.
And then I came in, I was like, Phil, it's good to meet you. Hi, sorry I'm late. Like I was in rough shape for that one.
That's too bad.
But that's another guy though that insanely talented voice actor, an insanely nice dude, and great voice coach.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I was expecting him to be like, we're totally getting off topic, but I was so expecting him to be this big, like, whoa, wild, over the top, because that's so many of his characters.
Well, it's funny. He was on Mad TV.
Yeah.
That's why you've got a guy, but you can see that too. You're like, of course you're a voice actor. You have the ability. And it's these guys it's people who are great at improv.
Yeah.
That was the one thing in school. Whenever improv, I would get terrified. I would shrink to the back. It was one thing that I love a script and rehearsal.
Yeah.
I panic. I don't know why.
That's so fun. Because I pictured you as being more of an improv guy.
It's weird. I don't know if it's more of like a stand-up. I used to mimic stand-up comedy, but still it's almost like rehearsed material.
Right. It's stuff that you know what you're going to say.
It's a story I can tell that I'm not depending on other people's performances to inform my interaction. So that it's a little more planned, I guess. Well,
and it was nuts too, because he was so calm. Like when we went into to coach with him, he would say, like, he'd be like, yeah, that was a really great take. Like, let's try that again with this. Just the calmest guy you would ever meet. I was like, this doesn't add up.
When your whole career, he was one of the big spearheads of they went on strike.
Yeah.
The voice actors, because they're like, our voices bleed. Literally, our throats are bleeding. And
that was when they were struggling between what counts as a video game and what counts as interactive media. Because that was the whole problem is SAG was
far different pay brackets.
Yeah, they were trying to pay them as interactive media when they were doing video games.
Video games, they've got. I watched the footage for like God of War.
Yeah,
and you've got dudes who are the actors, jacked, running around. It looks like they're in 300 in these big stadiums with the dots all over.
With the motion capture suits.
It's like a cool, like very, there's a lot of mats set up, and it's like using foam weapons, but it's so cool. But I mean, it's
a job.
It's a full performance now. It's no longer like the dudes in Grand Theft Auto. I remember that was one of the Rockstar really spearheaded that. Spearhead, the word of the day. Really, my dad.
Spearhead Walt shows up. Yeah. It's called Frozen Head.
It's called Frozen Head. Yeah.
But every episode, guys, we got to find a way.
We have to find a way. But they really were one of the first game companies to use the motion cap face for LA Noire. Did you ever play that?
Yeah. Yes. That was a big one too.
Really cool. I remember one of the actors from Mad Men was the lead in it, the detective, but it was cool because it focused so much on, to the point where it was a little ridiculous because they were, for a while, you'd see somebody like really.
Yeah, it was a little overdone.
But you had to do that to break into the medium or whatever, get introduced.
As much as I love talking about all these other video games and voice actors and things like that, to kind of bring us back over to Adventure Time, they had this incredible run of the show. I think it was after the 4th season. The creator, Pendleton Ward, I don't know if he was fired or if he quit. I want to say
like a Dan Harmon situation?
I think it might have been. Where I don't think he was.
I never understood.
I don't think he was fired. I think he may have quit, but he dropped out as creator, and he would still come in and he would voice Lumpy Space Princess and all of his characters, but he wasn't. And I think he was even still writing. But the show shifted. Like if you watch season 4 to season 5, everything changes. That's when we start to see some more of those like offshoot episodes where it's like, a random character, or we're diving into Marceline's past, which, don't get me wrong, I love those episodes.
Yeah.
But
it fills out all those characters you've seen.
It does. And I will say though, for me, like seasons 5, 6, honestly, 6 through 9 for me, it felt like they lost a little bit of the heart of the show. It just didn't feel as genuine to me. It felt like they knew who their audience was.
I don't want to say preachy, but it almost like they figured like going back to SpongeBob and how we were talking about that's a show that's for kids, but then there's adult stuff. But then at the end of every episode, they're like, there's a lesson learned or a child's aspect. You can take something away from it. Mm-hmm. And I feel like they almost introduced that into the later seasons. You're like, it's almost like, oh, wow, that turned out, like, well, it almost got that. Hit that rhythm, and you didn't want that. I love the unpredictable. Oh, they're hunting this bad guy the whole time. Turns out the bad guy's misunderstood, and he's going to be a good guy in a later season. But it's not like they learned a lesson. It's like Jake and Finn were right the whole time. There's a lot of plots in this where they are absolutely correct in what they're doing. And like, we did it. High five. End of the show.
And it's still technically that hero's journey, of changing and coming back, but
you'll learn lessons. Absolutely. Yeah. But I mean,
it was a little less heavy handed.
Well, and that's the cool thing about Jake too. He's almost that Obi-Wan-esque character where it's like, he's buddy, but like, he'll also be able to sit you down and be like, hey, we got,
Well, and then you start to find out things like the fact that Princess Bubblegum has been around for however many thousands, hundreds of years. And you have like immortal characters like the Ice King and Marceline.
Yep.
And they have this wisdom, but they're in like almost like a teenage body or like
Marceline
an early 20s
a
body.
Perfect example of teenage. Her dad, the episode with her dad who ruins the concert. I mean, it's that whole the struggle of being a good parent. And it's interesting because Jake and Finn, they're playing the Mad Max. They're just happening into the story, seeing it occur. They're literally sitting in the audience in that episode and like cheering on the music.
Right.
So you are still with them, but you're seeing this all take place.
And that's where I think the final season went right. They really looped back around to this idea of following Finn and Jake, but then they brought in all of this other lore. Because I mean, if you look up the lore for this series, I mean, it's a mile long. You could print that thing up and have a novel. And they brought all of that lore back and they tied it all in. You know, they put, I don't want to say they put a little bow on it, but they answered a lot of those questions that kind of went unanswered for, 4 or 5 seasons.
Sure. Yeah. There was an episode I even remember where, Abstract, I think it was called, where Jake turns blue and he has 6 eyes or something and has wings and he looks like a Chaluthu beast. But he goes to the bar and all these different characters just start coming in and interacting with him. But you're like, if you have no concept, and there were characters that had maybe said one line to him, and I've never seen that character before.
Yeah,
but I'm sure there was a whole episode devoted to it, and the fact that he's holding that item right now. Right. Is probably from that episode that I don't.
So, and then see. I guess that brings us. I'm not even sure. Yeah, we're doing okay on time. Good. I'm gonna try to be a little bit quick on this part because I don't want to spoil too much, but. When we get to that finale, we see it, spoiler alert, we see it from the point of view of, gosh, I don't even remember their names. I'm so sorry. This is a recent thing for me.
Scampy or Skippy or something like that?
It's like a little mouse type creature.
Mouse rabbit.
And then another dog-like creature that has a little bit of a horn, which makes me think that it's a descendant.
It was a descendant. Yeah, because Jake has his brothers and...
Yep. Or his relatives, brothers, and then he has his children.
So you're wondering, but this one's permanent form is a large dog. Yeah, it's like almost Clifford size compared to the rabbit.
Right.
Well, but then you wonder, is that rabbit sized? And
or is it?
We were used to seeing Jake.
Well, but we do see the rabbit next to BMO.
That's true.
Yeah, so I think it is about rabbit size, but it's just it was interesting to me because they bring this episode around almost full circle where. They go to talk to the King of Ooh, who's BMO, and
this is years in the future.
Yeah, this is like over 1,000 years. I think.
Yeah.
And they're like demanding answers on. I shouldn't say demanding. They're looking for answers on what happened to these great heroes. What happened to humanity?
Found Finn's arm.
Yeah.
His metal arm.
So, long story short, again, huge spoiler alert here. So, turn off the pod. I'll give you 2 seconds to turn off the podcast. Or pause it until you watch it. Huge spoiler, but they essentially find out that, this giant, godlike creature, this god of chaos and evil came down and in an attempt to save the Ice King, Betty ends up, wishing herself into the god. It's crazy. It goes nuts. But the kind of short of it though, is they end up, everybody just keeps on living their lives. This god of evil goes away and Finn and Jake live their lives out and Finn sees a bunch of other humans and his mom again. and Fern, the grass version of him, plants the tree that eventually this rabbit character finds 1,000 years in the future. And they kind of put a little bow on it that says, this could be another series. This could be a reincarnation of Finn.
Yeah, that the fact that you found his arm, the fact that he's not here necessarily right now, doesn't mean he's not here right now.
Yeah,
you literally are him. It's time is a flat circle, I think is what they say.
Well, and there's even a song in the finale that it's talking about like the verb tenses of the verb. Would it be a verb happening? Like to happen? No, it's not. No, not a verb.
Happening.
Adverb.
No. Adverb, maybe.
Adverb. I'm bad with grammar. Anyway, but they're talking about will happen, happening, happened.
It's like conjugations of happen.
Yeah.
It's like the tenses.
Tenses.
Past,
what was I saying? Yeah. Goodness great. You guys, you know what?
It's not a grammar podcast.
Right, exactly.
Grammar Nazis. That should be our
Grammar Unpacked. We will not be hosting it.
We won't be. No.
But they even talk about that though. They're saying like everything that's happened will happen and is happening. So it's referring to this idea. And even there is a previous incarnation of Finn. I don't remember what the character was called, but it was that it was Bubblegum's friend forever ago that Bubblegum also built a mechanical arm for.
That's right.
So the whole time I'm thinking, I'm like, when is this mouse going to lose his arm? And
we just haven't
be
seen
the
it
next,
yet.
Yeah, and be the next Finn. So I think that sort of brings us to the future of the franchise.
Yeah.
Obviously, they have tons of room for play here. They could release more video games.
Sure.
Easily.
Cartoon Network still owns the rights.
Yeah.
They do a movie like we talked about.
They could do a movie.
Put it on a streaming service, or if that's the way Cartoon Network is thinking about going, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a cartoon streaming service pop up.
Yeah. Oh, I wouldn't either. Well, I guess
they have Crunchy for anime and stuff.
Yeah.
But that was a couple of years, and that was just kind of its own thing. But
I would love to see a spin-off series with this new mouse character. I wish I could remember the name. I should have written it down, but I would love to see that series as a spin-off, but it could still go back to Finn and Jake, Sure. But at the I don't know.
I'd want to see. I think if they're going to do a movie, they will do Finn and Jake. They're the
Well, and there's a part of me though that they wrapped it up so nicely. They didn't close it off. They left it very open-ended, but they wrapped it up so nicely that I'm almost not sure if I want to see Finn and Jake anymore.
Well, that brings me to my future of the franchise.
Yeah, please.
Video game. You make your own guy. You go on your adventures and inhabit the world with other people if you want multiplayer or not. It's in the land of ooh. You have all your you run into all these. You could run into Finn and Jake.
Right.
They could be summons or something, or your character, NPCs. But yeah, I think there's always room for an MMO in my opinion.
Yeah, well, and
always
that's
room.
Especially with something like Adventure Time, because the land of Ooh is so massive, and depending on what you build your character out with, you could really explore any part of that world, or you could
be
live
any
just
creatures.
One part.
You could be the same race as anything you like.
Exactly. I think that there are. It's so tough because I feel like there are infinite possibilities. Mm-hmm. But there are also kind of a lack of possibilities for a future just because, they put such a nice little bow on it. And we see that
we saw their futures play out. We know.
Right.
But I mean, you can put yourself in the time frame literally right after they look into the hole.
You know what I would like to see though?
Yeah.
I would love to see an adult Finn and Jake. Because do you remember the episode where Finn builds a like a pillow fort?
Yes.
And then he grows up in there and has a family.
Lives in there, yeah.
I would love to see, even if it was just an extra season or something, and I know we're not going to get it, but I would love to see a movie or a season or a video game where you are adult Finn.
Yeah.
And you're exploring that universe as a grown-up and
everyone else has grown too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think that'd be so cool because they have such a rich array of characters. You have Bubblegum and Marceline and even down to Peppermint Butler, who is summoning demons in his spare time.
Black Magic 101.
Yeah, Black Magic 101.
Yeah.
And I just think they have so much depth to these characters that it would almost be a shame not to utilize it. But I'm kind of glad that they did not utilize everything.
It's almost a franchise that we want back up.
Yeah, pack it up.
We don't. it'll be great for future generations to see, you know. I'm wondering if they'll reboot, if they did do a streaming service, if they would just reboot have their own another series, a new series of it, you know.
I always worry though with reboots, you know, if they're gonna be decent, or if they're gonna be.
You gotta get those writers back. That's the most important part. You gotta get the team, the writers back, and
the same actors.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, you can't forfeit that by any means.
Especially with voice actors, you can tell. Kermit.
Oh yeah.
Come on.
Wait, who? What?
Kermit is the best example.
Yeah. I thought you said current. I was like, currently what?
Current what? No, currently Kermit. Yeah, no, I think he's changed like 3 times now, and it's problematic.
Really?
Noticeably problematic, yeah. But anyway, guys, that was our episode on Adventure Time.
Yep.
We loved it. It's a kind of one of those, I hate to say it again, but let's leave it alone for a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't need a future of the franchise.
Let it lie.
Yeah.
The future of the franchise is something, as corny as it sounds, I think that can really live on in the viewers' minds.
Yeah.
And like, and I don't know, after watching the finale, I felt settled in knowing that the universe was there.
There was peace. Yeah. I kind of like those little vignettes. If you ever saw 6 Feet Under, spoiler alert, the last episode kind of does that. You see every main character who's still alive at the end, and you see their death day, which was a running thing on the whole show. So it's no matter what time of year, what year it was, they could be old people. It could have been a couple days after the last episode. It's very
So I think for right now, the future of the franchise should just be let sleeping dogs lie for now, and
that's where we'll put it. But we love you, Adventure Time, and we'll keep rewatching you every year, probably. Yeah.
And please, send us an email or a comment on our Instagram or Twitter, anything like that.
We love those ideas, guys.
I would love to hear what you guys think about the future of the franchise specifically, because we love the way it ended. But I'm curious to see what you guys think about that.
Yeah, what you'd like to see more, maybe. And that goes for any episode. If you want what your ideas for the future of the franchise, that's kind of one of the running things we always want to have on the episode is where we would like to see it go. But we also want to hear where you would like to see it go.
Right. That's the whole point of this. We want to build a community where we can talk about these franchises openly and with each other.
Yes.
That sounded way less cheesy in my head. Everything. I'm having a cheesy day.
It's okay.
That's all right.
We're tired.
We're tired, and we're having
a week,
and we're having a cheesy day.
Cheesy day. We're backed up.
Anyway, guys, thanks for. Was that? And we end it with a poop joke.
You're welcome, everybody.
Thanks so much, guys, for tuning in, and we will catch you next week.
Take care. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. The next franchise we'll be unpacking is The Muppets. But in the meantime, feel free to drop us a line with any questions, comments, or future episodes at franchiseunpacked@gmail.com. Also, be sure to subscribe and share so we can keep these episodes coming your way. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.